Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. We're having such an in-depth and fantastic conversation. We're going to include you in it in just a matter of seconds. But glad you're with us this morning on the Mountain Morning Show. There's a big, well, just an amazing event that's going to be taking place here in Utah. We are very, very fortunate to be able to be a part of this. And there is a think tank and lots of different seminars, and there will be opportunities for people to learn so much about depression. And I think it's something, it's an epidemic that has hit our country. It hit it hard, it hit it fast, and people were not aware or prepared for some of the effects that depression was going to have on themselves as well as their families, and diagnosing it. You know, I think for a lot of years, people went through this sadness or these really bleak times and didn't understand why. They always, you know, thought, oh, well, there's medicine involved or something that's happening in my personal life, or, you know, they don't really know how to connect these. And some great things are happening. Dr. Fila and Holly Oram are with us this morning. Thank you so much for being here. This consortium sounds absolutely amazing. I mean, the people that have been gathered together to talk, we're talking about expert level as well as just personal experiences that will be shared with people at this event.
Here's what we found. We've got a major breakthrough that has occurred in the area of depression and anxiety. What we do is there's an educational course. It takes about 8 hours, but at the end of the 2 months of the people going through and using that education to change their life, 90% of the people will pull themselves out of depression and out of high anxiety, severe depression. And we've got the experts coming in from Utah, the United States, and the world.
Well, and I think one of the points we have to make, Wasatch County, I mean, the Wasatch area itself, lots of depression happening. I don't think people realize that in the state of Utah, we have a very high percentage of people that are dealing with depression on very, very many levels for very, very many reasons.
You know what's really sad is as I go to medical conferences or I go conferences across the United States, they go, oh, you're from Utah. So they bring up they actually bring this up, that you guys are in one of the higher criteria levels or one of the higher levels of usage of the antidepressants, and that you have this higher increase here. And that's kind of sad.
I think we know a lot. I think we know a lot of the reasons why. I think we're aware of some of the reasons why. There's a lot of pressure living in the state of Utah for a variety of reasons. You're held to a higher standard when the rest of the world is looking in. You know, the expectation of your life is, I think there's a lot more pressure put on you as a Utahn versus a lot of the other states in the union. But we're finding out that there are ways around this. There are ways to deal with it.
Yeah. Definitely. In fact, I tell you what we found is that the work was done by Dr. Nedley, an internal medicine physician, and he found, it just took him about 10 years, he found hundreds of things that would cause depression, but hundreds of things that would pull people out of depression. And he categorized them into 10 categories. And it usually takes, for a human being to move into depression, 4 of those categories affecting you. And so if you clear up one of the categories, it will then pull you out of depression. Okay. So there's 10 categories. 2 of them is very difficult to change, your genetics and who raised you.
Right.
But the other 8 you control. So that means that for the majority of us, 90% of us, we can pull ourselves out of depression. And of course, you still seek medical help, and you still seek help from a counselor. But the program primarily, if you do it and you change, you pull yourself out of it. And it's offered free at Brigham Young University at the Women's Health Center. It's being done throughout the whole state by people like Holly and myself.
Right. And that's what I think is so fantastic, Holly. You're really deeply involved in this, especially at Brigham Young. And tell us a little bit about what people can expect by participating and being a part of your program as well.
Well, when they come, I'm at Davis High, and when they come, what they can expect is to get a lot of education, and then they kind of need to make a decision as to whether or not they're going to do what it takes, you know. Okay. They need a little bit of motivation, but first, I think the biggest thing is first they get a sense of hope. The first sense I get from people who come to my class is, hey, wait a minute, I was told I would never get better, you know.
Right.
And
right.
So it's a transition into believing, oh, there really can be a change? You mean I can get well? You know, and then it's about, okay, I'm going to do this. And
yeah, and I think a lot of people, they become very dependent on the medications that they're given, and they feel like that is their lifeline. That is the only thing that keeps them going from day to day. And not necessarily the case. They don't have to be so dependent on them. Another thing I thought was very interesting, Dr. Fila, is the fact that drug addiction, criminal activity, all these things are related to depression. I don't think we would ever consider a criminal depressed. Do you know? I mean, we would consider another part of the brain being active and causing them to, but I would never ever have thought there was a depression of some sort involved. But definitely there is, huh?
Yes.
often, yeah.
Absolutely. The interesting thing is we have a professor coming from UCLA, and his work in a method of deep breathing, and Dr. Nedley has found that breathing can be one of the things that help pull people out of the depression.
Something so simple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something very
Yeah.
simple that if we could only grasp that, probably, like you said, if you're taught, I guess if you're being taught, then you can understand it. I think it's interesting, too, that our Attorney General, our State Attorney General is involved in this consortium as well.
Well, he's going to be coming and speaking on the personal impact of depression and possibly how that affects the legal system.
Well, and also he has a personal involvement as well because, as you mentioned, he had to pull out of the governor's race because he has an issue
greater
with a
love for
family
his-
member. Yeah, his family
I
member is
would have
much
done
more
the same
important
thing
than the gubernatorial race here in the state. So
Yes.
I think that makes a huge difference as well. Not to mention the other many experts that you mentioned that are going to be here.
Yeah, we
and
are
available.
so excited about his
I mean,
coming.
just it sounds like just an amazing way for people to
I'll
learn
tell you another
more.
breakthrough that we've found is in the area of positive psychology. This author here, Dr. Lynn Johnson, lectures across the United States. He's coming, and somebody can take a few minutes, it's literally just a few minutes, they write a thank you letter to a person who impacted their life. And they take that letter and deliver it to them. If they do that, the research shows that that pulls them out of depression for about a month. A whole complete month.
From one
That's
simple
one
letter.
simple thing.
Well, okay, so we talked about breathing.
Yes.
And we talk about simply writing a thank you to someone who has impacted your life and how much those things have changed. Now, not once have we had to mention that you had to have a drug to do this. Pen and paper or a computer seems like an easier way to go.
The thing we should mention is that people who've been on their medications, after they're done with the program, then under their physician, 90% of them are able to be weaned off by their physician, off their medications with no relapse.
Okay, and no side effects at all either?
No, they're going to
Okay.
be depressed.
They're just going to be happier. That's the
So
only
that's the side effect. That's the only
Yeah.
side effect. They're going to smile a lot more.
And
not feel
healthier,
so blue,
too.
huh? That makes a difference. How do people find out more about this event and getting involved? Because there's the fee is very minimal and it's a great opportunity. How do we find out more?
Very good question. So they can go to the website, iie-edu.org.
Okay.
iie-edu.org.
Okay.
They can also give us a call, and we'll direct them if they're in Vernal. Or there's people like Holly and myself that teach this class throughout the whole state.
Okay, so this is just not, so they don't have to come to Provo,
No.
to the Brigham
No.
Young Women's Health Center.
Well, that one's totally free at the Women's Health
Okay, so
Center.
that's free and available to them if
And
they'd
it
like.
can be from, a person does not have to be Latter-day Saint to go there. And they
Right.
don't have to be a student. The public are
Okay.
completely, and they don't have to be female.
Okay.
Because it is the Women's Health Center, but they accept
True.
males.
No, you know what? That's a great point because I think, and especially when we're talking about depression, this is just not a female or a male disease. It's not a black or white or young or old. I mean, this is something that is affecting everyone across every single economic, racial, gender line that you can imagine.
Right.
And it probably is the springboard for so many other illnesses, I would think.
That's true.
Just listen to this, okay? Who has the greatest likelihood of dying of stroke, heart attack, and cancer? A smoker with high blood pressure and high cholesterol.
Okay.
Okay, you got a smoker, but he's happy smoker.
Okay.
With high cholesterol. On the other hand, you've got a person who he doesn't smoke, he has normal cholesterol, normal blood pressure, but he's depressed. Who has the greatest likelihood of having the stroke, heart attack, cancer?
I would say the depressed person.
You would.
I
But
would.
most physicians wouldn't.
They would say the happy smoker,
The happy
overeater,
smoker is going to die of
overweight.
cancer sooner. The truth
Yeah.
is, the happy smoker lives longer, and he
Okay.
has less stroke and heart attack. The sad thing is, the depressed person has 600% greater chance of dying of a stroke or heart attack. So this is something you don't want to live with.
Well, but you know, I think all we have to remember is think back to a time, and I think everybody in their lifetime has been depressed at one time or another. Maybe not for an extended period of time, but something has caused that sadness that has
Absolutely.
been categorized as depression. And you feel the toll on your body after you come out of it. I mean,
yeah.
I think if you've lost a loved one, you know, that sadness, that grief that you feel, once you've started to come out of that, you feel how, whoa, my back doesn't hurt any longer. I mean, you know, we've dealt with, I have a sister-in-law that's dealing with breast cancer, a father who's dealt with prostate issues, and, you know, you feel that. Once you see them get over the hump and you see the rainbow, you can tell, okay, wow, we've made it, but getting out of it. So I can imagine, that's why I say, I'm not surprised that those are the people that are going to that are going to die sooner.
You know, and
that are
we're
be
going to
ill.
address at this conference some of the reasons why the Wasatch Front has more depression than other parts of the country.
And I think that's a
and we're
very
going to
curious
explore
question.
that. Oh yes,
I
that's
think
an
it's
eye opener.
And I think people would be very surprised at why.
Yes.
I think they'd be very surprised. One more time, give us the address so that people can register for this
Okay,
event.
so it's IIE-edu.org.
Okay.
And it's going to be at the Salt Palace on September 24th and 25th. And, you know, you're going to explore things like the Wasatch Front has always been in the top 5 or 10 places with the highest air pollution. And Dr. Nedley has identified one of those 10 areas as chemical pollution in our body
Okay.
that sets us up for this depression. That's one of the 10 areas.
September 24th and 25th at the Salt Palace. I would say go online, register for, I don't think you want to miss this. I think you're going to get more information than you realize. And as we mentioned, and as Dr. Fila and as Holly have said, everyone at some point in time has dealt with depression. And now there's a way that you can really deal with it, get out of it, and survive it. I think
Yes.
that's the key. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Wonderful
Thank you.
information. We
Appreciate
definitely appreciate it. We're going to have weather. We're going to have trivia for you right here on the Mountain Morning Show when we return. So stay right where you're at.